Well, a landscape architect is the equivalent of an architect, but for the outdoors. In the same way that an architect will manipulate internal space and create an envelope for a building, a landscape architect has the ability to create spaces outside, but not necessarily using building materials as such. So our building materials might be growing, there might be trees, there might be plants, there might be soil to create those spaces. So at its simplest, it is somebody who is able and trained to manipulate space out of doors.
It's all about orchestrating spaces and forms and people and knowledge.
We're coordinators of placemaking, that we have to be visionary. I think the ability and having the ability or the vision, if you like, to be able to conserve and to structure, populate and activate spaces, I think is a wonderful skill.
A landscape architect, the designer of the public realm, and I think that's a great opportunity to be involved in.
A landscape architect is somebody who can work with people, because teamwork is everything.
I like to think of us really as kind of like the green glue. We hold the thing together. We're like we're the base thing where we can actually do things that actually have a benefit for a variety of other professions involved in a big scheme. And this came up for us quite early on in our studio, working on a project in Elephant and Castle, where there are about 20 different consultants working from community consultation and education through to urban design and architecture. And the client in that particular instance gave us free rein. They thought originally we were coming in to do a few little spaces. And we thought, well, actually, I think you probably need to think a bit broader than that. And so we suggested how we could interact with this huge team, and we did, and trying to pull it together. And that was quite a satisfying way of defining landscape architecture, I believe.
A landscape architect is someone who normally designs, but they could have another type of role in shaping the external environment, the outdoor world. They could be involved in managing that space, or they could be creating a strategy for future change in the outdoor world.
So landscape managers look at managing a site, managing a vision over a significant amount of time. Maybe it's 15 years at times, maybe it's 150. So that's what landscape managers do, and I think it's a very vital component to design, because of course once it's built it has to be managed.
I'm amongst many things a landscape scientist. That's certainly where the roots of my professional life began, in the landscape sciences. But that includes a lot of work in the environmental field, and particularly in relation to brownfield land and mining land and reclamation of land and that sort of thing.
Sustainability is a big thing nowadays. There's, get more from less and do the best with what you have instead of digging deeper, getting more and more from this earth, which ultimately has limited resources. So that is what a landscape architect is responsible for as well. So there's intelligence, there's creativity, and it's a good combination of the science and the arts.
You've got to believe in what you're doing. You've got to care about the environment, whether you're interested in the urban environment or the rural environment. And I think most of all, though, you need to be passionate about what you're doing and enjoy every day as it comes, because every day is different in landscape, really is.
So we're trying to look in a completely different way about, I suppose, a self-sustaining landscape in a way. So that's one aspect. The other thing is looking at this carbon issue. We've got to try and find out what it is that we can do as landscape architects and environmental planners. What can we do to actually promote this idea that we can deliver some goods? So, for example, if we can reduce city temperatures in summer by 7 degrees, that saves a huge amount of carbon emissions from conventionally generated electricity for cooling. Well, not only that, if you don't have the air conditioning going on, you're not pumping out this boiling air into the streets, making the matter worse. So it kind of compounds the problem. So I wonder whether we shouldn't be looking at much greener cities. And we're certainly very interested in green roofs and what you can do on the roof, not just sedum, but maybe growing cabbages or apricots or a whole variety of things. You've maybe got chickens going up there, but you could also be making electricity with photovoltaics. So it could be a whole new aerial dimension, an aerial urban landscape, which could be very exciting, I think.
The landscape architect has to do so many things, has to be a very powerful advocate for the landscape, and has to be able to articulate with clarity why the public should be concerned and should participate in demanding the very best of our external environments. The landscape architect will have to be a campaigner. The landscape architect will have to be a politician, will have to get involved in politics with strategic planning to drive a change in policy. The landscape architect's got to be a practical person. Has got to understand how there are practical solutions to all the problems that we have today. So the landscape architect can play many, many roles.